Hey, Jeff, can you hear me?
Yeah, here we go. How's it going?
Fine, yourself? Your call went
Good.
good?
What's that?
Your call went good? I mean, you got a back-to-back evening just like here.
Oh yeah, yeah. You're in New York?
I am in New York. Where are you originally from? I don't picture you as an LA native.
Pennsylvania, actually. Yeah, uh,
They all
Wilkes-Barre,
come from
Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania. You and Rundgren and Hall and Oates and all of them.
Yeah, right on. How's it going?
Well, I'm glad that we finally connected on this, and your name just keeps popping up. Every time my wife and I start a new show, we go to the credits and, hey, Jeff composed that one too.
All right.
How exactly is it that all these things in a row, they're comedies, yet they're dark comedies? How did you become dark comedy composer guy?
Yeah, I don't know. It was never by design. I don't like comedy really. It was never the plan. Because my first big break was CSI Miami, which was not a comedy at all. I think Silicon Valley definitely kind of changed that a little bit. I started getting more calls for comedies after that. Um, and it's weird because that's not really, I mean, I suppose it's a comedy, but it's not musically, it's not funny at all, and it was scored pretty straight. But
Right.
I, I don't know, honestly. It was never by design. This business sometimes throws you these curveballs that you don't see coming.
Right. In your case, did you ever find out what was the cue or the piece that you did that opened up the doors that people went, I want to hire that guy? And the reason I ask that is there's an endless number of ska references in AP Bio. And then Silicon Valley tends to skew on hip hop and making fun of new metal. There was a lot of Papa Roach and Puddle of Mud jokes in there. And that's not your forte either, but
Right.
you've obviously shown yourself to be very versatile.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the Papa Roach and all that stuff on Silicon, that was pure Mike Judge.
Yeah.
I just laughed. Because when I first saw the pilot on Silicon Valley, there wasn't much music at all. Like it was pretty dry, except for some needle drop songs. And then they're like, "Oh, we might need to get someone to help us." And then all of a sudden, we started just trying music in a lot of different spots, and so a lot of the more tensiony stuff and a lot of more emotional stuff, we just started. It became the thing that they never really expected, and a lot of it was probably me trying to just will my way to not have funny music on anything. You know what I mean? Like I don't like funny music. I don't like comedy music. And so I try, even if the show is a comedy, I try to make the music not funny. You know what I mean? Like if you listen to it outside of it, that it's not funny music.
Yeah, that's a conversation topic that comes up a lot for me for people who write music for other artists and write music for film and TV. Not that he's big on scoring per se, but Stacy Jones from the band American Hi-Fi.
Right. Yeah.
I asked him a question or two that led into that. He goes, I hate comedy music. I don't like Tenacious D. I
Right.
don't like Zappa. I'm not putting words in your mouth. I like a lot of that stuff personally.
Yeah.
I grew up on a lot of comedy oriented music per se, but did any of your scoring gigs ever come from the band that you used to be in? Like anybody was a fan and went, oh, let's get Jeff. He was in that band.
Uh, Sadly, no. Well, no, I don't think so. I've been like, a lot of my experiences in this whole business have been like a lot of almosts on a lot of things. I was in a lot of bands that almost got signed, or this almost happened, or that. So no, honestly, I don't know. It's just been a lot of lucky, freaky chance occurrences, honestly. Like I wish I knew what the path to anything was, because I would try to. But I read, I forget, another composer wrote this one time in some book, and he just said, you can't really, a career, you can't really steer the ship. You kind of just got to hold on and hope you don't sink. And just, I wish I could go back 20 years and like plot out how my first film would have been this, dark Sundance drama that would have kind of changed everything, led you down that path. But like, I don't recall a time everywhere there was a choice and I made the wrong choice. It's kind of just something comes and you decide to do it or you don't. And it's not like you turn something else down in order to do this, like,
Hmm.
you know, I mean, when I got CSI Miami, I was about to like split town because I was broke and I was living in this crappy hotel. And I was like, I think it was, and so that was just a fluke event. And you kind of just went with that and saw where it led you, and then I started getting other stuff. But like, there's never really been a straight, you look at like, Trent Reznor or someone where it's all the scores he's done. He's got his thing, you know what I mean? And it's obviously evolved from his band career, but like,
Hmm.
you're going to get this synthy, very cool, hip, atmospheric, very modern kind of thing. For most of the score, what you're going to get. Like, and I've kind of had to been just doing whatever, kind of being like a chameleon on a lot of things to,
Yes.
and creatively that's fun sometimes, but sometimes it makes it harder because Hollywood being Hollywood, they want to be, I want the guy who did this. He did this, so therefore he will do this for that. And when you get stuff on your resume, if what the last thing you did doesn't line up with this, then sometimes people have a hard time connecting the dots, and you got to kind of try to change people's minds, which is fun as well. And that's always, I'm never going to stop trying to, move the needle and change and chase some things that people might not think of you for, because that's kind of why we do this, right? You never want to do the same thing all the time. So.
Right. I was kind of getting to that. Without saying who he is, I could type his name and you can go, oh, okay. But one of my brother's friends in college, he studied at NYU. There was a mix of music majors and people who were composing. One of his college friends became one of Hans Zimmer's guys. You're
Right.
writing the Hans Zimmer music, but it says music by Hans Zimmer.
Yeah.
Did you have one of those experiences where you were ghostwriting for a big name and that's what kind of led to the gig?
No, and that's kind of one of my not mistakes, but again, like that's, if I could go back to a younger me, I would have definitely pursued that, because to do the big blockbuster films, that's definitely the way to do it, to work under a big guy, and I just never really had that opportunity. I mean, I remember when I first got to town, I drove over to Media Ventures, Hans's place, dropped ough a tape, but I never got in the door. I never got a call back after that, and then I got Miami, through a total fluke. And then I sort of had my own thing. So I had to kind of just follow that, and I got my first big movie was a couple of years after that. I got my first studio movie was this movie called Just Friends with Ryan Reynolds.
Oh yeah. My wife loves that movie. She sings the something is
Forgiveness
forever. Yeah, she keeps singing that Forgiveness song. Did you play a hand in that one?
Yeah. I played a lot of stuff on that, and we had a big orchestra on the whole thing. The original song was written by someone else, but I scored the whole movie. And in doing that, there were different arrangements of the song, and they kept changing it, and we re-recorded and stuff. But that was to this point, one of my most fun experiences ever. I mean, that was the first time I had the big giant 85-piece orchestra and the whole, it was awesome. I mean, but so after that and CSI Miami, then I kind of was like, I had my own thing going, so I couldn't really go try to work for Hans, but I wish I could have, because it's surely launched many a big film career.
It did. It gives you a lot of great name drop stories. Like, so I was at the house the other day and Bryan Adams came over. You get a lot of those stories, but
yeah, without a doubt. I mean, but for every one that breaks out, there's 100 that don't, and so
exactly.
Again, like we all have our own paths, there's so many different stories, so I surely would hope there's an easier path than the one I took, but it is what it is.
Yeah. You are where you needed to be. And is that a Van Halen 2 hat you're wearing?
No, it's this charity, my friend Kay Cannon is director, and Jason Sudeikis, they have this charity called Thundergone. So I ordered the hat. Anyway.
That
The
looks like a
Diesel
Van
logo, yeah.
Halen 2 logo right
Yeah,
there.
yeah, it's definitely Van Halen influenced. Yeah, it just
So
came in
is,
the mail yesterday, and I was like,
so
it's
is Kay the Van Halen fan, or is Jason the Van Halen fan there?
awesome. That's a good question. I'd say Jason. I think he puts the thing together, the concert. Kay had a fundraiser the last few years at her house because she lives pretty close, and so that's how I found out about it. But yeah, it's cool.
Gotcha. Well, speaking of Van Halen and all that, like, did you start off as a shredder kind of musician and fan?
Well, yeah, I mean, first I was, remember that movie Shine with
Yeah.
Jeffrey Rush? Okay, that was how I started off playing piano.
Oh,
So my whole childhood was charting in at 5:30 in the morning playing piano,
yeah.
but then as I got into high school, I was totally a rock freak. And I first started on drums, like as I was still doing piano. I made a deal that I would play piano if they got me a drum kit. So my dad like loaned me the money to buy a drum kit. And I played, and I actually was such a Van Halen freak. I had a drum kit that I took apart and painted black and white stripes, like spray painted it like Alex or Eddie's guitar.
Yeah.
And I had red cymbals, double bass kick. Like I was a big Alex Van Halen fan. So I did that in high school, played drums in like metal cover bands and stuff. And then later on in college, I picked up guitar, and then I became obsessed with guitar because it was a time of, rock was happening on guitar. So I was like into all the shredders. Like Steve Vai was my god. Who else was like, obviously Eddie Van Halen, but probably Steve Vai, Eddie Van Halen. And oddly enough, one of my other shredder idols is Nuno Betancourt from Extreme, who's like just ridiculous guitar player to me. I don't think they ever got like the respect, they kind of got the rep because of their ballad songs, but he was just a ripping guitar player.
Well, same kind of deal with, say, Paul Gilbert from Mr. Big.
Yeah.
How many people are a better guitar player than Paul Gilbert, but he gets pigeonholed as the To Be With You guy, even though Eric Martin wrote it, just like Nuno Betancourt gets pigeonholed as the wholehearted, more than words guy.
Yeah.
And, I'm not saying Get the Funk Out is the greatest song ever, but there's chops to that.
Oh my God. Well, I'm embarrassed to say I've seen them a few times in the last 10 years.
Wait, what's embarrassing about that?
Oh no, it was freaking awesome. They're one of the best live, because I mean, a lot of that stuff, a lot of the hair stuff to me doesn't hold up too well now. Like it had its time, but when I see a lot of it or I listen to a lot of it, I'm like, oh, the lyrics are pretty dumb in some of it, and some of it's like, for every Van Halen, there was 3 tiers down that some of the bands weren't quite as good. You know what I mean? They got kind of watered down, but to me, Extreme, like the musicianship and the songwriting and the live was just insane. So like seeing them play, I saw them on the 20th anniversary of Porno Graffiti, and they played the album front to back, and it was like unreal. Like just like any live band today would kill to be as good a live band, and just
I'm with you. If you were going to do the 10 hair bands that you can listen to without any guilt, remorse, or calling them a hair band, Extreme is in that top 10. Dokken, I got Dokken in there. I got that in there.
I used to like Dokken a lot, but when I listen now, his voice is just so like light and floaty, because George Lynch is just so like, I don't know, what was
Mr. Scary.
Yeah, like the second album, Under Lock and Key, right, with like It's Not Love, and all, like it just sounded so awesome, like just so good. And then the vocals are just so like floaty and it was fine. But I was a big fan back in the day of them too. I'm trying to think of if I had my 10. That's tough.
Whitesnake, come on, definitely.
I've seen them many times. Yeah, great band. From the old stuff to the, what's the album Still of the Night and all that stuff, to the stuff after, just great. I mean, David Coverdale's just so good. Yeah, it was great.
If Rudy Sarzo was in a band at some point, it was a good band.
Oh yeah, it's funny. A friend of mine, this guy Danny Sabers, got this new podcast or this video interview, and he just had Rudy Sarzo on. And I commented, I was like, that dude looked like he had more fun playing the bass than anyone I've ever seen. And Rudy commented back. I was like, yeah, it was pretty awesome. Yeah, he's always like licking his bass or just making, he's just, yeah, that dude's seen it all as far as rock bass. Yeah.
Yeah, and when it's an interesting path. I'm in no way going to connect this to you or your career. It's just totally unrelated to everything. I'm not giving you the warning where you're then going to have to go, well, I am the Rudy Sarzo of composers. That's not where I'm going. But the dude like plays in cover bands. Then he eventually gets like Ozzy, then Quiet Riot, then White Snake. Then somewhere along the way, Blue Oyster Cult, and maybe I'm missing one or two between there and that. That's not a bad discography or day job. Series of day jobs to have.
Yeah, no, not bad at all. I mean,
Dio. I missed Dio right there. I think he had 1 or 2 tours with Dio.
Did he play? He didn't play with Ozzy though, did he? No.
He was in Ozzy maybe 81, 83. Like,
okay, I thought he played with Ozzy. Okay, right on. Yeah, no, he's great. It's great.
He's great, but you mentioned before Steve Vai. Were you just a Steve Vai instrumental fan, or you liked his work with Roth a lot?
Oh, I love the stuff with Roth. Like I could play Eat 'Em and Smile front to back. Like I had the book, and I was a freak at that stuff. Like
wow.
What was like? Yeah, but I liked a lot of the songs that weren't hits on it. I liked Ladies' Night in Buffalo. The solo on that was a good one. What was the other? But yeah, I love that stuff.
Shy Boy.
Yeah, I mean Shy Boy, Tobacco Road, and all that. Yeah, that was great. That was, because again, like I guess over time your tastes change and your perspective changes, but at that point in time, it was like guitar gymnastics, I mean, there wasn't, a lot of that stuff, it was technically ridiculous, but there wasn't as much feeling, there wasn't as much emotion in a lot of that. I mean, Yngwie Malmsteen is a ridiculous guitar player, but like after 5 minutes, I'm kind of bored because I've heard enough sweep arpeggios to last for the next 20, you know what I mean?
Sure.
I appreciate it, and and it's great, but after a point, like it's musically boring to me, Although I did like Joe Satriani as well, because I felt like he was, and Eric Johnson, because I felt like they also hit the emotion beyond like their technical wizardry or whatever, but they also can get to the emotion of it all, the musicality of it all.
Sure.
Like you could sing a lot of Joe Satriani songs. You can hear the tune and know that there's a tune there. It's not just the solo; it's the tune really good. Where Vai, I love a lot of his stuff, but a lot of it's pretty inaccessible. Like it gets very Zappa-ish, and it gets very music, very music nerdish, and it's a harder listen. And I, in fact, went to Disney Concert Hall a couple of years ago, and because Steve Vai was part of this classical thing.
Really?
He had a classical piece performed where he was with the orchestra and he played guitar, and I'm sad to say I didn't think it was that great. And I'm like the hugest fan in the world, but it just, some things aren't meant to go together. And for me, that was one of them.
When you say that you could play Eat 'Em and Smile front to back, does that mean that you could do the talking guitar bit from Yankee Road?
I mean, I knew how to play it. I could do my best version of it, but I spent hours and hours learning all that stuff. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that was, to me, that album was great because it had humor, it had really catchy songs, like ridiculous musicianship, and it was just like a moment in time,
Well, I'm a big Skyscraper fan. Did you follow him to that record too?
Yeah.
Like, what was your tail off point? Was it She's My Machine, like a lot of people say it was?
No, probably after Skyscraper, there were some good songs. I liked Damn Good. That was on Skyscraper, right?
Yes.
That was a great tune. Some of it was a little slick. I didn't like the Just Like Paradise. I mean, it was okay, but I felt like Eat 'Em and Smile was a little more raw, where Skyscraper was so slick and produced. But there were a bunch of good songs on there. I just can't remember. Was that Hot Dog and a Shake? Right? That was one of them.
Hot Dog and a Shake was on that record, I believe. The Bottom Line is my scratching my head, like mind blown kind of song. Do you know that one on Skyscraper?
Yeah.
I don't know how they could perform that live, yet the Matt Bissonette could do the Sheehan stuff not flinching.
Right. Yeah, there was a thing, there's a bowling alley out here called Lucky Strike, And before this all happened, they would have this Thursday night jam night, and the house band, a lot of times Billy Sheehan would be in the house band, so you'd go and see. And there was one time, I think it was like 3 years ago, but there was a rumor that Eat 'Em and Smile band was going to play. And apparently they pulled up in a limo outside. And I was so pissed because I had to go out of town it was like around Thanksgiving. So I wasn't going to be there. And I was so pissed. But I'm just texting my friend who was in line the whole time. And they were showing up to play, but fire marshal shut them down and they wouldn't let them go in. Yeah. So,
it makes you think if it was like a David Lee Roth publicity stunt kind of thing to get it shut down. Because I would have done it, but
No, but they Vi had played there a few weeks before, so I've seen them all there. So it wouldn't have been that much of a shocker to see them play, and it would have been cool. I mean, I would love to, and I can't believe they never put it together again after that. But
right, I mean, everyone seems to be friends from that group, and I had the pleasure of interviewing Matt and Greg Bissonette like a month or so ago because they have a new band called the Redcoats.
Yeah,
and speaking with Bissonette, you realize he's played on so many things you don't realize that he played on. Both the Bissonettes played on all those musical cues for the show Friends. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's a cool video. I can send you a link to their last day in the studio, which is a cool thing they sent me. But they did that. And Greg Bissonette was on the Pat Boone record, the Pat Boone metal album.
Well, I just saw, maybe less than a year ago, I saw at the Baked Potato here at Jazz Club.
Yeah,
and Matt Bissonette played drums, and I didn't know he was. It was Steve Lukather was playing guitar, and then Jeff Babko on keyboards, and Bissonette on drums. And I didn't know he was like a jazzer. I didn't know he could do that stuff, and he was awesome. It was cool.
Well, what I was getting at is, has anyone from any David Lee Roth band incarnation wound up playing on the score of anything? Long shot here, but you never know.
Well, Steve Vai played on Bill and Ted.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. On the first Bill and Ted.
Well, I mean, something that you did.
Oh, no. Something but that's a great idea. Who could I get? We'll probably get Bissonette. That would be the easiest one to get a hold of, right?
You could get the brothers, and who are, 2/4 of the Skyscraper album. Looks like you could get John 5 pretty easily if you like the DLR band stuff going forward.
Oh, that's right. I never heard that. I just heard on your podcast that I listened to that episode.
Thank you.
And I didn't know that he did an album with David Lee Roth.
Yeah, those are the songs that have been coming out through Roth's comic book and all the online stuff. It's an album that, depending on who you ask, him and John 5 made an album in 2007 or 2013 or 2014. No one knows when it was made, but he did that, and then he was on the DLR band album in '98, which he did guitar and bass under alias.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Yeah, I wasn't as familiar with John 5. I've seen a lot of his videos recently because he's really good. I'm good friends with Fred Corey from Cinderella.
Yeah.
He's always just like, John 5 did that. John 5, he's just raving about how good John 5 is. So I've checked out more of his stuff, and I'm like, damn, yeah, dude's good.
Have I read correctly that Fred has become a composer and is right for?
That's how he became friends with him. Mm-hmm.
So then that was going to be one of the other things I asked you. Are you the kind of composer that hangs out with other composers or wants nothing to do with other composers?
No, in the beginning, I did not hang out with other composers, but then I realized we're all a bunch of weirdos, and it's better to hang out. We're like the only ones who get each other, I think we're all insecure and, don't want to give away, we're all competitive, but I realize that's stupid, and it's better to hang out with people you have stuff in common with and you have common interests. And I just realized a lot of people that I gravitate to are composers because we kind of all see the world the same way, And I've also kind of just realized, I've been in this long enough to realize that you kind of can't, we're all competitive, but we all get our moments, and you can't be jealous of someone else's success. You kind of got to be happy when someone else gets a victory because it wasn't your victory anyway. You know what I mean? It's and it all comes around, and going through life, just being envious of people is just a shitty way to go through life. I mean, it's just
for sure
a fulfilling way to live, So yeah, I guess I grew up a little bit as far as that goes as the years have gone on. And it's better because almost everyone I talk to is a composer now, for better or for worse. But yeah.
Well, bring it back to Eddie Van Halen for a second. with all the obituaries that have come out and the tributes and all that, it seemed like he only hung out with lead guitarists. It seems like all of his friends were guitarists, and
Right.
he was not jealous or in fear of losing a
Right.
gig. And seems like the case with Lukather and all the other geniuses.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I would venture to say they probably, when they were early on in their careers, they're probably a little more, a little more attitude and a little more defensive about that. But yeah, I mean, geez, Lukather's played on probably more things than anyone in history, I bet, like that we've not even known some of the stuff. I mean, it's just ridiculous when you look at all the stuff he's played on.
For sure.
And yeah, the Eddie Van Halen really hit me hard. Like I didn't realize how hard that would hit me, but it's like a part of your life, like something that's been a part of your life as long as you can remember, especially as long as you can remember music. To realize that that's not there anymore is like, that's a bummer. Yeah.
It is. There's no getting around that. That one hurt more than any other musician I could think of in the last 20 years. But
Yeah.
bringing it back to you, did I read correctly in IMDb that you were scoring for the show Heels?
Yes. Do you
That
know
is-
anything about that?
As a wrestling guy,
Oh, nice.
reading
Yeah.
about that show for like 3-4 years, I went, no one's going to make that. That's too
Oh,
good.
really? I'll tell you what, I'm like so excited about this thing. Yeah. I mean, it's because it's not a comedy. it's a
Right.
drama. And yeah, I've been for the last 10 years saying my goal is to do a sports movie, like a sports show. I mean, that's because, I like doing emotional music. Some people like doing big action music. I like music that goes for the heart, and I feel like in a sports show or movie is the one place you can actually do it, and it's okay to do it. You know what I mean? And so when I read the script for this, I'm like, oh my God, it sounds perfect. I kind of liken it to like Friday Night Lights meets, I don't know, it's good. So yeah, I did it. I got a friend who's a music supervisor, this guy, Jonathan Leahy, and I hunted it down, and I got a chance to demo, and I read the script, and I wrote a piece of music that got me the gig. I mean, from reading the script. So, and knock on wood, as far as, they're still shooting, but
Right.
the tune from this piece I wrote is still like the main theme of the show. So we'll see what happens, but it looks awesome. I mean, it's still early. Like COVID has definitely changed because I think they were supposed to start in June, and then it got pushed, and they started in, I forget, October maybe. So I think they're finishing half the episodes, and then they're going back, I think, second week of January to start principal photography on the second. But like the set, it looks awesome. Like if you're a wrestling fan, it's great. Yeah, I mean,
all the ties between 80s metal and wrestling yet hit you, or is that yet to be discovered?
no, well, it's funny. No, there's like, and I hope I'm not saying anything I'm not supposed to, so I'll be careful, because like some of these things before they come out, like you got to be careful about
Of
what
course.
you say.
Embargoes.
Yeah. But they're one of the show creators. His brother's a musician, and they created, like, there's a lot of thought going into the intro songs for these wrestlers that come out, and there's definitely some metal going to exist there. And his brother wrote a song, and it's, if you like, it's really good. I mean, it's a really good metal tune, and I think it's going to be the theme for one of the main wrestlers of the show.
Cool.
I mean, I can't wait. I mean, it's really cool.
That's one of the shows I'm psyched about that you hear that's coming out. And let's see, looking through this, I didn't realize that you were doing Young Sheldon this whole time. What?
Yeah.
That leads me to wonder, how are you able to work on so many shows at once?
I don't know. I mean, and people think I'm a freak because I don't have an assistant. I don't have people. Like I honest to God write every note of everything. However bad it is, it's all me.
No,
like, there's a lot of, it's a thing now, and I get it. A lot of people have these companies of people, and
right.
I get it, but I mean, I've been able to work on 4 or 5 things at a time, and I've never gotten to the point where I couldn't do something. So why change? I mean, it worked for me. I'm sure we all have our different, but for me personally, like I don't want to do it if I'm just managing people, like I get no satisfaction out of money, making money. And I want to finish an episode or finish a film, put the cues in iTunes and listen to it. And I know why everything was written, where each, how they all connect. And I would just, me personally, get no, I don't want to put it in and be like, oh, I wrote 3 out of 12 cues on that episode. But I got paid a lot, but that's just not me. I mean, I probably should try it a different way because I seem to be the only person who's doing it that way, but I don't know, old habits. But yeah.
I respect the hustle. I'm not going to knock the hustle on any level. And if it's your craft, you do your craft.
Yeah. I mean, after my band days, I just remember saying, I forget, like my parents were like, what are you going to do with your life? Like this music thing, you got to make money. And I remember I was driving from DC to Pennsylvania. And I just remember, my parents really gave me the sit down, cause like it gets harder the older you get. Like, when you're 18 or 20 and you're in a band, it's one thing, but like when you're pushing 30 and you're still trying to get signed and all that stuff, it's like, your parents don't like it quite as much, and people start wondering if you're, when you're going to grow up a little bit. So it got, I remember those years got pretty hard, but I just remember driving back and I was like, all I want to do is figure out a way to sit in a studio and write music all day, like and I just had that kind of epiphany, I mean, all the others, I never did it to make money or because like this was the path. Honestly, I never, after spending a decade driving around in a van for $50 a night, trying to get signed, money's not really the reason you do that stuff. It was just, but I just, that's what I wanted to do with my life. So in that respect, to be able to sit here 20 years later to still be making a living, making music, it's great. So that's all I ever wanted to do. So that's what I like to do. That's the reason I got into it. So that's why I do it myself, because I like to do it.
You just answer what was going to be my last question. You're that good, which was going to be, Jeff, any last words for the kids? And you got it all right there. The craft is the important part. You figure out a way to make it happen, and then you just keep doing it until you can't anymore.
Yeah, I mean, well, I always thought you get somewhere and then you're there, but I realized somewhere along the way you're never there. It's like it's a constant journey. There are constant steps. There's constant victories and a lot of freaking losses, and you just dust yourself off and you try for the next one, and but that's great. I mean, I learned something musically every day that you try to do something just a little different than you did the day before, and that's what keeps you growing, because who wants to think that they know it all and just repeating it all the time? That's boring. So who knows what it all means? I mean, everything's so different now with all the streaming, and I wanted to be a movie composer, and I've done 40 movies, but it doesn't mean anything. Like I don't know what the whole playing field is changing around us. You know what I mean? Right. And so when I started, it was like, you were a film person or you're a TV person, and there was a line that just wasn't crossed. You know what I mean? And now it's like a streaming show has, whatever, Thomas Newman, or you know what I mean? Like everyone's competing against everyone, and it's all, you just never know. And it's exciting, but it's scary and it's frustrating, and I don't know if we ever get to this plateau where you feel I'm safe for now. I'm here so I can breathe easy, because like there's always someone coming up nipping at you. And now that's the other thing. Like, I suppose I'm not like the new guy anymore, so then you realize, oh, whoa, there's this 25-year-old who just got this big movie and they're the hot shit now. And it's like, you have to figure, you know what I mean? Like you just your ego is constantly put in check, and it's good. I mean, it's exciting, and there's a lot of great stuff, and there's a lot of different viewpoints and different stuff that's, people do things that you wouldn't do. And like, I don't know, like I listened to the Tenet soundtrack a bunch from Ludwig, and it's just fucking mind-blowingly good. It's like, I don't know how he did some of it, and I just like, and it's cool. Sometimes it's great to just get floored by something, and you're just like, that is so good, I just want to quit, you know.
Well,
because we need that. You can't get complacent, you know. It's like,
I would say to worry about what you're saying if your last film credit was Just Friends, but
yeah.
if you were still going, hey, you ever hear the movie Just Friends? I did that. I have this friend, like,
this is the first I've talked about that in about 10 years, probably. Because, you know, the funny thing is the producer put it on Facebook, because it's become like a Christmas thing now, like every Christmas, you know, and I forget about it. I never talk about it, but one of the producers, I'm friends on Facebook, and he's like, 15 years ago today. I'm like, 15 years ago, holy crap, I can't believe it's been that long. You know, it goes fast. Yeah, I mean, it all goes fast.
Well, you never want to be that person who's hanging the hat on the one film credit from X number of years ago, and then you have to describe what happened in the film for the people to get the context of it. So fortunately, you know, if you go, well, AP Bio and Young Sheldon, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. As long as you have a credit from last year or the year before,
right,
you're fine.
Right.
You don't have to do that game.
No. Yeah, that hasn't been the problem. It's just fine tuning what's next. You know, I mean, I don't know. I did Saved by the Bell, so obviously I'm not that. I'm not that.
That was so much better than you realized, that show.
Oh, dude, I when I was doing it, I was like, this is going to be the final nail in my coffin of my career. But the people are so awesome, and I was like, you know, there's some really cool people, and the reviews when they started, I could not believe how good I mean, once the New York Times gave it a grade, and like, I could not believe how good they were. And it's not surprising. I mean, Tracy, the creator, and Franco, I mean, she's genius. You know, the writing was really good, and but you just never know. It just basically means, I don't know anything. You're just along for the ride, and you do the best you can, and I have no idea how any of it works after that, you know?
Those sound like the lyrics to Going Crazy by David Lee Roth.
Yeah.
You go and you do the best you can. Well, and the whole point is, thank you.
That's all you can do. All you can do. Yeah. No, thank you. Yeah, all you can do is do your best, and all the rest of it's out of your hands. It's to the movie gods or whatever, and you can only hope that something you latch onto, you know, rising tides raises all ships. You only hope you do something. You know, I'd be happy to do one cue on something that becomes something, because, you know, that changes a lot. You know, if you're on something that gets that buzz, then everything is just better because of that. So
yeah,
so we'll see.
I'm looking forward to seeing what's coming next, because your streak of great projects just keeps going. So Jeff,
thanks, man.
Paltrocast.